Okay, guys. Hello, Papa Seven here. Today we're going to be starting a new series, which I have been talking about for doing a while. We're going to call it Q Clash Lore, and today we're going to be talking about Sir Knight. Now, I do want to say a few things before we get into this. This is my theory based on information gathered from lore in the sprays, from the skins, just from sometimes even the map itself. Very little from the map, but still some. And we will be going over a few things. Knight's past in general, the Abyss and what it is, Knight's relationship with Zadina, and Knight's and the another relationship with Reaper. So yeah, those are the things we're gonna be over. But you know what? Getting into it. Remember, this is not me saying this is what happened. This is me strongly suggesting this is what could have happened, and I do have evidence to prove it. And if you feel the need to go look at the evidence yourself, maybe inform your own theory on it, DM me about that. I'll put links in the description for gathered up information on this lore. If you have any questions, just ask. So yeah, let's get into it. So let's start off with Knight's past. What we know about Sir Knight's past is actually very little, but at the same time, enough to theorize what could have happened. We start off with the first piece of lore, the skin Royal. This skin lets us know two very important things. One, that he lost his head in the era he defended the king. And we can go deeper into that lore with another skin called Blue Steel, which specifically says the armor was what he used to defend on the king's road because it was light, strong, and along with the ability to resist magic. This obviously shows us that this was his way of defending the king. In fact, I'm very sure he was much closer to the king based on his relationship with the king himself, since the lore does imply that he was his brother. But yeah, I'm sure he did more than just defend the king's road. But we'll get more into that later. But that does sum up some of his past. The rest is sad and tragic, but who cares? This is Q Clash. So the next part of his past is what I'm going to call the Great War, which started from a cinch of jealousy from Sir Knight himself. What we know so far based off the description of the skin's regent and prince is that there was a great war between two brothers. One sought the crown out of pure jealousy, and in so a war started. Now, we don't know when the war took place, where it took place, or who is even involved in it besides them. But what we do know is that, in the end, both of them died, but one brother, Sir Knight, filled with jealousy, was cursed, his soul taken from him, and being cursed to roam the earth forever. Now, this is all that we know for Sir Knight's past so far. Now we'll move on to the topic of Abyss, which is going to explain a little bit more, or at least enlighten, like I said, what could have happened. Now, first, let's get into what the Abyss is. For those of you who don't know what the Abyss is, it can be heavily implied that it's in place. If you think it's a person, please explain to me why. I honestly think it's a place because Sir Knight, in a lot of his voice lines, does not refer to it as a person. He refers to it as a place. But yes, and going off the fact that it is a place, because if you look up the Abyss, you're probably going to find a lot of stuff that goes into religion about how it's a dark, deep hole, or like the underworld, for instance. But let's just get into it. The Abyss is a place, most definitely not a person, because in the manner that it is described, it's always referred to as a place. Now, I did do research on the Abyss myself, and what I mean by that is I said, Google, tell me what the Abyss is. But, you got a bunch of stuff on religion, which obviously isn't what it's playing into. So I remembered Q Clash is called Quantum Clash originally, but they had to call it Q Clash for copyright reasons. And it's referencing that these people have been from all time periods, and even from different worlds. So what if Sir Knight has traveled through time? So my theory here is that Sir Knight has been to the Abyss more than once, actually, but I think the first time he went there, he fought Curry, the Guardian of the Underworld. Now, whoa, radio static, cut, all that, like the car swerving around, stopping to a hold. Papa Sama, why are you going all about the Underworld? How did you get from the Abyss to the Underworld? Well, two things. One, when you look up the Abyss, in most cases, it usually described as a dark, deep hole in the references of the Bible, or even Jewish theology, as a reference to the place of evil spirits, or like the underworld in Greek mythology, where the spirits of the dead are sent. And then Greek theology, underworld is a place that can be reached by humans, or even the dead. And I know this is a little bit of a stretch, but it's even depicted in the movie Percy Jackson, where they do go to the underworld. It's obviously much harder to go to the underworld than just going to Hollywood. In fact, if there's different worlds, there's obviously different places where you would have to go to the underworld. So that would have meant that Sir Knight trying to, get back to the underworld, which plays into my theory here of him trying to get his soul back, which is why he fought Curry in the first place. So, getting into it. If you're undead, or in this case a Dullahan, and you're not going anywhere anytime soon, you basically have plenty of time on your hands, and what better to do than get your soul back? So I theorize that Sir Knight went to the Abyss to find his soul, and maybe even become whole again. This is where Curry comes in, and if you don't know what the Curry skin is, it's a skin that tells us that he is the guardian of the underworld, and that he was one of the few people to ever beat Sir Knight in a fight with a sword. So yeah, that is who Curry is. But yeah, he was one of the few to beat Sir Knight. And once he is beaten, we can probably theorize that since he went to the underworld, he had to leave. And this is a little bit of a stretch, but there is a voice line of Sir Knight's where he says, "Ah, I am burning up in here." And I will link a video and a timestamp in the video where he does describe it as if he's in hell, or in the underworld, or in the abyss. This is probably after maybe he loses, or maybe when he's going through to get to Curry. This could be him describing his suit, but I honestly don't think a man of his stature would be screaming about how it's burning up in his suit. So yeah, back to the point. Once he's defeated by Curry, he probably leaves. Now, this is Q-Class. This is a world where, people are coming from different times. And remember, the Abyss is one of those places described where time, space, those don't matter there. All that you got to know there is that it's death, it's cruelty, it's regret in there. So, chances are Sir Knight probably ended up in a different world. Maybe even a different time period, maybe even both. Because it's like a loophole or a wormhole. You're not going to end up in the same place you came from. If you are, you're very, very lucky. And, like I said, he's probably been through here a bunch of times to get his soul back. And ended up in quite a few different places and worlds. And this would explain one of his skins called Bronze, which says he has been seen swinging his sword back even in the Bronze Age. Now that is an age way before the time of actual knights. The Bronze Age was like, in some areas, proto-red. It was basically back in urban civilization. It was basically right after the Stone Age. So, and this is obviously before knights. So, like I said, he's been around the worlds, I should say, and time differences. So that's why he's been seen everywhere. This also explains how he's acquired different sets of armor that would be considered priceless, like the amethyst armor. But yes, and moving on, he would have been swinging his sword back in the Bronze Age, which that's all explained now. Now, that does answer the question of what is the Abyss, or at least give us a substantial theory on what it is. Now, the next question is this spray. Yes, this very spray called Healer. And I say this because this spray depicts Adina looking quite frightened, if I may say so myself, and the word she uses in a chant is an incantation, which I get is a reference, because our creators love to reference stuff. But the point is, what she says is very simple. Turn undead, turn undead, turn undead, nature's beauty, turn undead, God blow. Now, since this is a reference to an anime, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is a reference to an anime. And if you look up this part of this phrase, even the whole phrase, this is a phrase used in some games, and even anime used as like a chant to fend off the undead for a short amount of time. Very short time. In fact, I'll give a description of what I remember from looking it up, and I'm pretty sure in a game concept it's used as you stop the undead from attacking you for 10 seconds, and it's applied to each undead around you. But once the 10 seconds is over, the undead are no longer fearful of you and will attack you. And, based off of the fact that is, what they're referencing by saying that. To be honest, if I was a chicken who saw a dead knight with a sword, I would probably use that chant too, especially if I could get away by using that. I'm pretty sure that's what that reference is to. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. But that would be one more mystery solved, if I'm correct. And now we will move on to an extremely asked question. What is Sir Knight's relationship with Zadina? Well, it's actually really simple. In fact, and I'm actually really sure I'm right about this. If I'm wrong, you know what? Prove me wrong. I'll be fine with that. But yeah, remember. Now, people ask what his relationship is with Zadina is, and it's really simple. If you go to Sir Knight's stats and read his bio, it says he hates mages. I know it sounds really random, but you know, guess what? Zadina's a mage. And if you don't believe me, it's continuously stated in sprays and skins. And I'll state out one called Archmage. And if you think maybe it's someone who hates mages, no, it's a more powerful mage. And she's also mentioned in other skins about using magic. And what do you gotta be to use magic? A mage. Or unless you want to be a wizard like Harry. But the point is, Sir Knight's relationship with Zadina probably isn't the best since he does hate mages. And this, if you don't think he hates mages that much, he literally has a whole suit dedicated to fending them off that resist magic. So yeah. And you know, it could, maybe he has an exception for Zadina. We don't know for sure. We don't know their exact relationship. For all we know, Zadina could have been a character in the war on his side or on her brother's side. His side, obviously, she would have been an exception. Her brother's side, obviously, she would not have been an exception. But going based off of this fact and that it fits so perfectly, and that she is a mage, and it very clearly states it in the spray, she's probably not his favorite person, especially if she was affiliated with his brother. Another relationship we have to consider before ending this video off is, well, Sir Knight and Reaper, who you might remember Knight mentioned in one of his domination lines for Reaper. He says, you have much to learn of the Abyss. And, you know, we got to kind of consider two things. One, they're both technically what you would consider, I guess not, you could consider Knight an immortal, but still, he is in the category dead, in the sense that he has no soul. And Reaper is in between. With the lore for her, it's a little mixed. She could be a zombie, she could even be a vampire. The point is, they're both in the category of someone who isn't exactly living, but living at the same time. So, you have to take that into consideration, and that they're the only people who, you know, are kind of connected to the Abyss. Not even Zadina's connected to the Abyss, but that's probably because she's living. If she was, there would probably be lines in her. But that specific domination line shows that she knows something about the Abyss, or either he was just, you know, taunting and making fun of her, which he probably wasn't, because, you know, he wouldn't say you have much more to learn of the Abyss if he wasn't referencing the fact that she knows about it. And I had a flimsy theory back in the day, you know, that maybe she was a bounty hunter sent to send him back to the Abyss. And this was all based on the fact that there was a line that Sir Knight used to say when he kneeled. Well, he still does say it, but he says, the Abyss is calling, which, you know, lets us know that the Abyss is a place, but maybe he has to go back to the Abyss. Maybe it's calling him because his soul is there. Because remember, the Abyss is a place where souls and, you know, torment, it's regret down there. So maybe that's why it's calling. But that is a flimsy theory. But we gotta understand in this relationship with Reaper and Knight that she at least knows of the Abyss, for that matter. But otherwise, guys, that is it on everything we're going over so far for Sir Knight's lore. If you did have any questions at all, please feel free to DM me, put it in the comments. I'm completely fine with answering them. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you understood it too. And you know what? I'll do any Clashers lore next. I'll go based off of whose name is in the comments more. So if I see more of Decker, I'm gonna do Decker. If I see more of Sheila, I'm gonna do Sheila. So yeah, guys. But until then, keep clashing.